Blame Vickers.
Hello, and welcome everyone to a very special live episode of Always Almost There. Tonight we are unveiling the first two regions of the 2024 Goose Jam of the Year bracket. Yep, that's right. It is bracket season, baby. Let's go.
Woo!
Brian, aka Jive Goose.
I'm Bracket Kev.
And I'm Neil.
And I'm Ryan. And four of us are so excited to be here today for the fifth iteration of the Goose Jam of the Year bracket. As B mentioned, it is bracket season. And as I just said, we're very excited to be here. Just want to start off, before we dive into the bracket, I know you're all very eager to find out where your favorite jams have ranked. But before we get to that, very important, we have some thank yous to dish out to the people that made this bracket happen. First and foremost, whether you're watching live or listening after the fact or watching after the fact, anybody who got involved in the seeding process or has been part of the discussion throughout the year, thank you from the bottoms of our hearts. You know, we've seen bigger and bigger participation every year. And we were so honored to get 128 playlist submissions to help seed this year's bracket. Just for context, last year we got 85. So seeing so many more people, just feeling comfortable sending us your rankings, we're just excited to get so many people because the more people send in their rankings, the wider, the better indication it is of the community. So
more sick jams. More sick jams.
So how many people submitted in 2020 ballpark?
I think like 11.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot. It's a big upgrade.
The community's grown a little. Anyway, next up on the list, huge thank you to our good friends at nugs.net for working with us on the bracket again this year, making it possible for us to accept submissions via playlist. And some more that we will be announcing tomorrow. So look forward to that. Also, our very, very good friend, Adam, aka 6ROM7 on Blue Sky, the creator of the formula, and someone who has done so many other behind the scenes things without us even, asking him to do. He's like, hey, I did this extra thing. And we're like, that's amazing. So thank you, Adam, so much for all your hard work. It's been amazing. Yes, Adam, the creator, father of the formula. But also, of course, their part is just coming up starting next week. But huge thank you to our friends at WTED Radio over wisterialane.org. Just like in past years, they will be airing every single matchup at noon Eastern time every single day throughout the bracket. They've got some new spins on how they're going to be airing it this year, new ideas. So be sure to check them out. If you don't know WTED, you should know WTED. 24/7 Goose Community Radio. It's a great place to be. And of course, our complaints department, needs to be leveled up with the increase in participation and voting. So, as we heard at the beginning, blaming Vickers is still on the table, but we are excited to announce that Vickers has been promoted to the managing director of misinformation. Big hand for Vickers and all of his hard work.
Well
Congrats. I mean, he's worked his whole life for this. Yeah,
it's true. This is what it's all been working towards. So if you have complaints, questions, anything about the bracket, direct them to @902 Vickers on Blue Sky, please. There's managing, there's directing.
Find him on LinkedIn. He's already upgraded his title.
It's on the resume. All right. Now, last thing before we jump in, we've been getting a lot of questions about how the tournament's going to work this year from here. So, of course, tonight and tomorrow night we will be live. Tomorrow will be the other half of the bracket, of course. To reveal the seeds, we're going to talk through all of the first round matchups, and then on Sunday morning, all of this information will be posted on social media. The bracket will be publicly revealed in full, and our bracket challenge will open, which I'll talk more on in a second. But voting officially starts on Saturday, February 1st at noon Eastern, and will continue every day until the champion is crowned. So we will be posting links to a poll on all of our social media sites at AAT Goose Pod. You do not need any sort of login or social media account to vote. This is on an external site that we used last year, IP tracking to ensure no tomfoolery. And what we are doing this year in an effort to make the tournament go a little quicker, we will be doing 2 matchups per day for both the first and second round. So look for that. Obviously, this will all be posted, so don't feel like you have to remember all of it now. As I mentioned before, WTED every day. You can listen. We will also be sharing playlists to listen on Nugs throughout the tournament, so you can stay involved. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, the bracket challenge is back. And we are excited for that. That will be opening on Sunday morning. You will have the opportunity to fill out what you think is going to win or your favorites. And we have prizes at the end for. Will Uncle Fred's Jive go for the 3P? That is the question on everybody's minds. He's won the past 2 years. The Golden Strange Man is on the table. You will get a Golden Strange Man if you win, along with hand-painted by our good friend Neil.
Gilded.
But there are also many other many other prizes that we will announce very, very soon. So look forward to that. Okay. I think that's all of our housekeeping here.
That's a lot of housekeeping.
Yeah.
Why don't I break it down a little bit?
Yeah.
A lot of housekeeping.
Yeah.
So how do you get involved in this? That is the question. So that was a lot of words. So I'm going to break it down into, I think, 3 layers of involvement here. Buckets, as it were. So number 1, you submit a playlist. It's too late for that. Everybody's already submitted their playlist. You don't have to submit a playlist to be part of this. But if you want to next year, you can do it. You can't do it anymore. So that has determined the bracket that we're going to unveil at least the first half of tonight. So that's 1 layer. And that's a lot of involvement. That takes a lot of time to put together a playlist. But again, you don't have to do that to be involved in the bracket. Layer 2 is just filling out the bracket on what you think is going to win. So once we're done announcing this after the end of tomorrow's podcast, you will have the opportunity to fill out a bracket and say, these are the songs that I think are going to win. And then that's how you win prizes in this thing. You don't have to do that, but you can do that if you want, especially if you want really sick prizes. We have historically given out some great stuff. 3rd level involvement. This is the most important. You just get to listen to the jams. So you can listen on WTED. You can listen on the playlist that we're going to release, I think, after tomorrow, Sunday. I guess. Yeah, on Sunday. And then you get to talk about it with folks. And that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing to me. That's how I got super involved in the stuff in the 2020 bracket, was listening to the jams and talking with my friends. And that's how this thing has grown into this whole thing. So that's the one thing that you don't really have to do much other than listen to the jams and talk with your friends about it. So those are the 3 layers of involvement.
Listen, criticize, appreciate.
Yeah. And you can say, I don't like that jam. You can say, I love that jam. All of these things are within the realms of possibility. You can say the jam is sick. And, you can have it a little more nuanced than that if you want. But every once in a while, you just got to say the jam is sick,
Sick jam, bro.
Sometimes.
Yeah. All right.
You will hear that tonight.
Yeah, you'll hear it a couple times. So this is how it's going to work for the 2 podcasts starting tonight. We are going to introduce the lower 2 regions. And when we start the region, we're going to count down through the seeds, and then we're going to walk through every single matchup. We're going to offer some insight on what we think the gems are like, where we think they should have been placed relative to where they ended up in the bracket, where we think, how things are going to shake out in the bracket as they go on. And I think that's generally it, unless folks have anything to add. Jive, do you got anything there?
He was giggling over the exposing the lower region of the bracket.
Did I say that? Oh man.
No, I think I like how you broke that down. You don't have to submit a bracket to do a bracket challenge or to vote.
Yes, everything is open to everybody. Yeah.
You don't have to vote in order to win the bracket challenge or submit it. You know what I mean? I don't want to buy anything bought, sold, or processed.
Love it. Yep.
Or sell anything.
Yep.
Bought or processed. So.
Thanks.
Go, John.
Okay. Are we ready to kick this thing off?
I believe we are.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. We're having a good time. So let's start with the Manor region. I'm going to read off the seeds from 16 down to 1. We've got some slides to show, and then we will go into the individual matchups and give some thoughts, get some feedback. So, without further ado, man your region coming at the 16 seed, Arrow from June 16th, Jacobs Pav, Cleveland, Ohio. Coming in at 15, Born, September 21st, Remlinger Farms, Carnation, Washington. At 14, we have the Pancakes from the Miami Fillmore from October 29th. At 13, we have the Salt Shed Thatch from September the 12th in Chicago. And then at 12, we have another Remlinger Farms Jam, the Redbird from September 21st, Carnation, Washington. At the 11 seed, we have, this is a big one, Cap Rosewood.
Oh, man. Let's go.
Dorchester. That's from April 8th. We'll talk about that one.
You will.
At length.
We have the 10 seed Tumble from the Fox in Atlanta from June 22nd. Coming in at number 9, we have the Cal Coast Matavan, San Diego, September 26th. And at the 8 seed, we have the SPAC Hunger Site from September the 7th.
Hot.
And at the 7, we have Jive Lee from the Northlands in Swayze, New Hampshire,
Swayze.
June 14th. And at the number 6 seed, we have the In Your Eyes. Great movie. That's from June 28th, The Man, Philly. At the 5 seed, we have the Fiddler's Drive, June 8th, Denver, Colorado, Inglewood, Colorado, hometown boy, Kev here. And now we get to the top 4 seeds. At number 4, another Cap Jam Pancakes. Some call it the Cap Cakes. That's from the 7th of April. And at number 3, we have the Greek Drip Field from LA, September the 27th. At number 2, we have another Cap Jam, Into the Mist, from the 8th also, Port Chester, of course. And number 1 seed, number 4 seed overall in the bracket, we have the Westville Rockdale from New Haven, June 30th.
And there you have it.
Absolutely,
B, I just
Rob.
want to say you're really good at reading out the seeds in a very dramatic way. Your dramatic pauses suit this very well.
It was like a draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to see how everybody, showing support for their favorite jams in the chat. Keep doing that. Keep sharing your opinions. Brendan has a question.
I love how he didn't think we were going to be prepared for this.
Well, he was just on the edge of his seat because it was so dramatic the way that Jive was reading the seed. That he's like, I need to see him now. Like I can't take it anymore. And you got him eventually, man.
There we go. Kev, also, we're sorry in advance that any messages from the chat that we highlight are covering your face.
Yeah, sorry, Kev.
All right, B, any more thoughts on this before we head into the initial matchups?
No, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Okay. So, upset. No, I'm just kidding. Rockdale comes out easy here. Obviously, my only remark here is Rockdale was my number 6 overall on my playlist. So not quite a 1 seed, but obviously strong enough here to take out the Cleveland Arrow, which I did not have in my playlist. Kev?
This wasn't very difficult for me here. I listen to this jam probably 3 or 4 times a week. And of course, I'm talking about Rockdale, not that Arrow. So easy choice for the Arrow Raider, or for the Rockdale Raider.
Just gonna keep it going.
Yeah, I was surprised that this Arrow made the bracket. I know there was a lot of hype around it at the time, when the Cleveland show was played, but I think it had kind of faded out of the narrative. And I was surprised how many votes it got, to make its way in, even at a 16 seed. But yeah, this is Rockdale all the way for me. This is my number 3 ranked jam of the year.
I am so happy that I get the last word on this thing because the New Haven Rockdale is my favorite jam of this year. It is my favorite jam that Goose has ever done. And I'm happy to say that. You might say it's a little bit dramatic. I don't think so. I think it's not that this is a dark jam. This is an entire band completely locked in with each other, doing things that they've never done before. And that should excite you when you hear this. Some people, need like a little cup of milk or like a blanket or like a teddy bear to go to sleep at night. They get scared by scary jams. Don't be scared of scary jams. Appreciate the scary jams. Like you don't need a lullaby. You need pure anxiety inducing Goose, and that's what this is. This arrow, I don't have much to say about it. It is a little bit interesting, I think, insofar as it's a different take on an arrow, and I think that's how it ended up in this bracket. So didn't figure in, I think, in any of our brackets. So
It was not.
I mean, take that for what it's worth. But it is also interesting, and it made its way in. And I think, I do believe in the wisdom of crowds. It's not the last time I'm going to say this. And this found its way in because enough people thought it belonged here. So decent jam. Listen to it when you hear the matchup.
Neil,
All right.
Neil, real quick, do you have? Am I allowed to ask if this is your number one overall?
This is my number one overall. I'm the only person I know that ranked this number one overall, and I'm shocked and saddened by it. I mean, there's just so much good stuff to find in this thing. Vickers did punch me during this jam. He is very, very excited.
Everybody gets punched. Everybody's getting punched at shows with each other.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Somewhere else in this bracket, someone else got punched. All right, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. This is our 8-9 matchup. And I think I'm right kind of with the public on this one. And in fact, if anything, I had this Matavan a little bit lower.
Sorry, can you read for those who may be listening after the fact? Would you mind reading the matchup?
Not at all. This is the SPAC Hunger Site against the Cal Coast Matavan, San Diego Matavan. And so, this Hunger Site's good. And I think the Matavan has a really nice kind of chill jam coming out of the proper part of the song. And I think that's why it made the playlist, because it is a strong little section there. But I've got the Hunger Site about 20 spots higher on my list. So the 8 seed moves on for me.
Kevin.
So for me, I actually went through this side of the bracket today listening to these versions so I could have a little bit of a fresh perspective on this. And for me, again, the way I rank these is how I listen to them and what I go back to. And so for me, this was not that difficult. I ended up choosing the SPAC Hunger Site.
Yeah, I think I like this Hunger Site more than most. I had it ranked at 37 and this Matavan at 50. I agree with you, B, that like that chill section early on in Matavan is really, really nice. But for me, this Hunger Site, you've got these two kind of distinct sections to it. You got that really amazing Bliss Jam, and then you got that long build in the second half. And I just think it's really, really engaging throughout. While it's still, for me, obviously loses handily to Rockdale in the next round. I think it's more than enough to beat this Matavan.
For sure. I agree. This Hunger Site is awesome. I really love it. I'm going to say this a million times, so meme this if you'd like, but this is an example of Rick just grabbing a riff out of nowhere and then developing it. And in fact, if they had stayed with that riff in that first jam that we kind of want to call like a Bliss sequence, this would be much, much higher than an 8 seed, I think. But they kind of like shifted and moved on, as they do with Hunger Site. There's, I think, always distinctly 2 sections in a Hunger Site minimum. And so that happens here. This Matavan is perplexing at a 9 seed to me. It feels like a pretty straight up Matavan, other than the kind of Bliss segment. Right when Matavan comes out of nothing, that first thing that you hear of melodies is great, but there's not enough of it. And then the rest of it is kind of like, if somebody was like introducing you to Matavan, they would say, listen to this Matavan. This sounds like the emblematic Matavan of 2024. And I think that's what lands it here because it's such a strong song. But yeah, it seems high to me for what we got in the end. I know some folks are super stoked on this one, so I'm sorry that I said that, but that's just the way I feel.
Everybody's got favorites, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Next up.
Okay. So we've got the 5-12 matchup. At number 5, we have the Fiddler's Drive going up against the 921 Redbird.
That has the wrong
Which is
location
actually
on the
from
graphic.
Carnation,
Yes.
Washington.
That's Carnation, Washington, not San Diego.
Not important because it's going home.
Yeah.
And I may have been punched during this drive. Speaking of being punched,
I thought that was a different jam later in the show.
I wasn't sure, Ryan. I was going to ask. Do
Okay.
you remember when you punched me in the head?
It was the second set.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, this drive is really strong, as drives throughout this year have been. And in fact, I would say drive might be my kind of, jam champion overall in terms of just strongest jams of the year. If may have a jam quotient being released that will back that claim up with some hard data. But yeah, I've got this drive at 12 overall. Public had it at 18, so I had it a little bit higher. I had this Redbird down at 58. So like most 5-12s, I think this is going to go the way of the 5 seed pretty easily. So yeah, love this drive. Love it.
A lot of really strong versions of songs to come out of 6-8 fiddlers in Colorado. Some people might call that attendance bias. Others might just refer to that as reality. For me, this was really easy. It's drive. Again, listenability. And what do you go back to? I go back to this drive here.
Yeah. I really like this Redbird. It kind of like slingshotted up and down my list for a minute. But I love the kind of like charging, like kind of like very tension filled ending section. But I mean, it's hard to beat this drive. Like 30 minutes, the second 30-minute drive, of the year at this point out of 2 versions played, which is obviously irrelevant to the bracket here. But just the way that they patiently build these motifs here, and Peter's piano work especially really stands out to me in this jam. But yeah, it pretty handily moves on from this round.
What's interesting? I think this is close. I rated this jam higher than everybody else here. Mm-hmm. I rated it 32.
The Redbird or the drive?
The Redbird.
Okay.
I think we were all pretty close on the drive. Let's see here. Yeah, I actually rated the drive lower than anybody else. I had it at 16. Usually I split the difference between you and Jive, but not in this particular case.
You have absolute Colorado bias. Like
anti-Colorado bias? No.
Yes.
It's not true. So hear me out. I just want to talk about this Redbird because it's really, really good. And it has like a cinematic quality to it. Like Leighton here says, the emotional roller coaster is what makes the jam strong. And I think that is what's happening in this Redbird. So to me, it is ultra cinematic. It reminds me of like a chase sequence. Like it's like full of tension and it's just like what's going to happen. And just like it swerve and like all of a sudden, like, there's like motorcycle. Oh shit. And like, that's what I think of when I listen to this Redbird. So friend of the pod, Jeff, I think he thinks of Redbirds this way too. They can be really, I guess cinematic. I'm going to reuse the word. And that's what what?
Oh yeah. Jam chart for this one?
I know you have to ask Jeff.
See it. No,
but in any case, this is a strong 12 seed in my opinion. I had it at 32. So if I had my druthers, it would have been in the 8 seed region. But this drive is pretty sick. It's a sick jam. And this one's going to move on pretty handily. I mean, it's got 2 really awesome sections to it. I really like the kind of descending thing that happens in the first jam. And then out of nowhere, Factory Fiction materializes. And it's so good. And I'm so glad they actually didn't go into Factory Fiction, which you guys, when you were at the show, you probably would have been really stoked if they seamlessly found their way into Factory Fiction.
I thought it was happening.
They just kind of, yeah, I mean, because it was. I mean, they were blatantly playing it. We'll have to ask Peter what he thinks about that when we get a chance. But yeah, really, really cool section. excellent jam, excellent 5 seed. That is a strong 5 seed. It does move on, but this Redbird is better than a 12 seed.
Well, as we heard before, I don't know if this 5 seed is lasting very long for most of us. Next matchup, heavy hitter.
Yeah. Hey, so listen, just to close the convo on the Fiddler's Drive, some call it Colorado bias, and some of us call it Colorado magic. That's all. I mean, that's all I'm going to say there. And actually, when they play California Magic, if you sing Colorado Magic, it makes that song a lot better.
It doesn't seem so bad anymore.
All right.
Oh, God.
Let's move on to our number 4 matchup here.
So
please.
we have the 413 here in the Mana region. We have the Cap Cakes, the pancakes from the Cap, April 7th, going against the Salt Shed Thatch. And so, listen, I want to talk about both of these briefly. So Cap Cakes, this is my number 3 overall jam of the year. And so this is big for me. I mean, and we're going to get to our final 4 picks, at the end of each region's discussion. But yeah, I've got this one pretty high. So it's going a long way. Now, that said, this Thatch I have way higher than I think just about everyone. So I actually have this Thatch probably overseeded.
Oh my God.
I had it at 15 overall.
So for context, Jive Goose ranked this at 15. I had it at 41. Kev had it at 39, and Neil had it at 33.
Cincy Thatch is better.
That's not relevant. That's not relevant to this discussion, Kev. Please continue.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of this Thatch, and I would have liked to have seen it not go up against such a monster jam as this Pancakes. So it's not going to be close in the voting, but I just wanted to give a little bit of love to this Thatch because I think it's really underrated. I think this is a year. I think this is a really good example of the type of jams that we see kind of throughout this year, where you'll run into anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes or maybe 7-8 minutes of some really cool stuff amidst maybe some otherwise kind of average sections of a song. And a song like Thatch is obviously a great song. And so I think it comes down to how we kind of rate some of those shorter jams. And for me, this is one of those kind of shorter jams that I just rate really highly. I mean, it really moves me, and I'm just a really big fan. But like I said, Cap Cakes all the way. Kev?
Yeah, I am not so much in agreement with you on the Thatch, but that's okay. Again, like you said, for the last matchup, it ain't gonna make it past this round anyway. This was an easy Cap Cakes for me.
Yeah, same. I've loved this Cap Cakes a lot. I have it ranked 6th overall. Again, like this is a jam where the crowd disagrees with us. I think this would have been a 2 seed had we seeded the bracket on our own. Despite Kev's best efforts. But like I have it the lowest out of the 3 of us here. Kev has it at 20.
20.
Somebody's got to represent the people, man.
But I love this jam a lot. I think it builds around one idea, which I think a lot of the top jams of the year sometimes, I guess sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But I feel like with some exceptions, the top jams of the year tend to be multi-section. Think Fiddler's Madhavan, think Westville Rockdale, which has a couple of different sections. This one to me is just like circular in nature to the jam, but I think it's pretty unique as far as Goose Jams go, and especially coming so early in the year. It was just amazing and has held up remarkably well among the other excellent versions of Pancakes we've had all year. And I agree with you, B, that this Thatch has a few minutes of really cool playing with dynamics that very much mid-September, very layered major key jams they were getting into. Pretty similar in nature of like the kind of tension release swapping to the Salt Shed Drip Field. But I think it's a very good jam. But yeah, I think it's stands no chance here.
It does stand no chance, but I want to take a moment to agree with Jive, because Jive and I always agree.
Always.
This is a great jam. I don't think my rating agrees with his, but I do think there's more than meets the eye to this jam. So there is a gorgeous Bliss section to this that is just really delicate. I think Bliss is the wrong word. It's just like a really delicate jam, this Thatch, that I absolutely love. And then what they were doing at the Salt Shed specifically, we're going to talk more about this later in a different jam. They really are toying with dynamics in this jam, where they do soft and loud. And Rick and Cotter especially are all over this kind of soft, loud thing. And it sounds so good at the end of this Thatch. It has to be composed. They had to have practiced this. There's no way that is improvised. I mean, maybe it is, but maybe that's why this jam is, I think, very, very good. I think it is a little better than a 13 seed. Although, is that where I ranked it? I don't know.
You had it
I
in
had
your
it
30s.
at 33, so like I had it much higher than this. Yeah, so I think that's right. But this Pancakes is very, very good for a jam that stays in a lane, and that's often a thing we use to criticize a jam and say, like, well, it only stays in one lane. It really only does this one thing. But there are a lot of really exceptional things about this jam. Rick's tone in this jam is amazing.
Yes.
The return to Pancakes in this jam is incredible. Just that moment, the return to Pancakes after Rick toys with the Pancakes like return lick for a little bit before he goes back. I mean, that's the stuff. That's it. That's the stuff you're listening for in improvisational music, right? It's such incredible stuff. And yeah, I mean, the other thing I want to say about this is Rick's notes are so well chosen in this Pancakes. He doesn't play too many notes. He doesn't play too few. He is just right where he needs to be to kind of build the tension and darkness that is in this jam. It's just so good. This jam, well deserving of the 4 seed, could be much, much higher.
Apps.
Vibes are in the chat.
Vibes.
Okay, so now it's time for Jive Goose to give a soliloquy on a jam that
Oh boy,
none of the rest of us really care about. So Jive, take it away.
Don't front load that. That's not fair. Like he's got a lot to say about both of these, and I think he should be allowed to do both of them as the first speaker.
He's going to.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, listen, I don't have a lot to say about both of them. I'll start with In Your Eyes. It's a good jam. I think it's overrated. I'm not quite sure why it ended up at 21 overall. I had it at 40, and Cap Rosewood, on the other hand, the public had it 44. So it wasn't as disrespected by the world as some might lead you to believe. Came in at 44. That's like the middle, kind of the middle-ish area, right?
Around
the middle.
Last quarter.
I had it at 17, and now listen. I think these guys will have my back. I have loved this jam since day one.
Oh,
true.
Everyone came out of the Cap run, talking about the mist. I mean, we all loved it. There was no disagreement on the drive. I think the mist and the Rosewood to me were quite similar actually in a lot of ways. And I've always been of the opinion that the Rosewood just does that a little bit better than the mist. I've got it higher than the mist and just a little bit. Anyway, look, I love this Rosewood jam. I'm not quite sure why sometimes it sounds like I'm so alone there. This is a high re-listenable jam for me. I go back to it all the time. It doesn't bore me. It's got an incredible groove. And then the multiple peaks, the tension and release peaks at the end of this jam, I think are incredible. So yeah, I think this is a severely underrated jam, and I am gonna put In Your Eyes on upset alert. You heard it. Rosewood moves through here, not just in my bracket, but I think in the official one as well. So I don't know.
So I don't know if you all appreciate the little say anything soliloquy that Jive did at the beginning here with the In Your Eyes tie-in, which I thought was pretty clever. The Rosewood Heart that is in this round, I have listened to 4 times this week to give it a proper listen, so Jive doesn't get mad at me when I say that I'm picking In Your Eyes to move through this round.
Thank you, Kev. Yeah, I've always thought that this Rosewood is an excellent Rosewood, but it's a very good example of 25, 26 minutes of them building within a type 1 Rosewood space, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But when I'm looking for a bracket jam, I'm looking for some sort of adventurous improvisation, and this does not do it for me. Yeah, you have those tension builds at the end, but that's a thing that Goose does in 95% of their jams. So for me, this is a very patient build. It's a good listen, but I don't feel compelled to go back to it in terms of, adventurous jamming. And like when I think of like, oh, that's one of the best jams of the year. Is it the best Rosewood of the year? Yes. Not a very high bar in 2024. Hopefully that bar is higher in 2025. But yeah, I do have In Your Eyes winning this matchup. This is another one that's kind of moved up and down my list at various times. I had it really high at one point, and then I had it lower, and it kind of, I think it landed in like my 30s. I really like the clav part, and I think the standout part of this jam to me is how it kind of soars back into In Your Eyes without you really noticing it. Like just you're like, oh shit, they're back. Like so, great jam. But yeah, I think this is a relatively weak matchup on both sides for this region.
All right. So if you had Ryan saying type 1.5 on your prop bet for this,
I didn't say it.
you just lost. So that didn't happen. All right. So real quick about these two, I maybe had this In Your Eyes ranked a little high. I think the last 6 minutes of this are incredible. I think what precedes that are some minutes of pretty standard clav funk. But the end is pretty amazing. And the way they find their way back to In Your Eyes is noteworthy, Ryan. I do agree with that. That's the one bit of notes that I had on this one. This Rosewood, like everything from the cap, was awesome. Although we had to move on from some of the things. And this was one that I moved on from the cap. I just don't see the excitement around this one. It reminds me of a lot of other Rosewoods. I'm a big fan of Rosewoods, really, truthfully. And I wanted to be behind this guy. I want to point out that Ryan and I did not rank this Rosewood. Kev and Jive did rank this Rosewood. If you like Rosewoods, it's the best one of the year. So, like, if you want to find a way to get this in the bracket, there you go. Here it is.
But it did. Enough people agreed with Jive to get it an 11 seed, which is honestly higher than I expected it to be. But yeah. All right. Matchup number 6. Big money.
Okay, I'm a little upset after that. After all those hurtful things that you guys just said.
We've been saying it to you since April. So,
before we move on, hold on.
I gave it the listens, and I made sure it was in my bracket, and the people will be able to weigh in.
So I did want to have an admission here, which is I do believe I overrated In Your Eyes and kind of underrated the Rosewood. So, like, if you're saying upset alert, it's possible.
Oh, it's definitely on the table here. I disagree with it, but it's definitely on the table.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Matchup number 6.
Okay. All right. We're having a good time. So we've got the 3 seed, the Greek Drip, going up against the 14 seed. Another Pancakes, not quite as notable of a version. This one's from October 29th at the Fillmore in Miami. I'm just going to quickly tell you that I had this drip field as my number 7 overall. Public had it at 9, so we're pretty close there. Came in as the 3. I did not have this Pancakes on my playlist, and yeah, this drip field is so good. This matchup's not even close. Drip field takes this easily, and then we'll get into some interesting matchups down the road. Kev?
Okay.
Oh, Greek easy here. I actually listened to that today. Primal Banger, great version of that Primal Banger. Probably going to listen to it again as soon as we're done here.
It's not a bad idea, Kev. Yeah, I had this drip also at 9 overall, so right on the money for the crowd. As B said, he had it at 7, Kev at 16, and Neil at 20. I know Neil is big on taking points off of this drip field because it's drip field until like minute 12 or 13.
It's not 12 or 13, but
doesn't it breaks?
Say your own things. I got my bit. I'm ready.
And that's something, and that's something that we take points off of, or we have taken points off of Arrow in the past for taking a long time to get out there. And I think the difference is, for me at least, when I'm listening to this drip field, I'm stoked all the way through the song part and the type 1 portion. I'm like, fuck yeah, drip field. Sometimes Arrow gets a little tedious. But what happens in the back half of this drip field is some of my favorite improv of the year. One of the things, again, I mentioned with the Salt Shed Thatch, that like layered major key jamming that they were doing throughout September, and they were kind of developing through the month. And this is the culmination of that. And I think they kind of moved in a different direction, in shows after this one. But this is like laying back, calm, Peter just like coming in over the top with like synth leads. Like it's wonderful. It's blissful. It will put a smile on your face. And I listen to it a lot. This is also my GOAT drip field. But this Pancakes, I don't want to skip over. I had it ranked relatively low in the 50s. But great sauce work by Rick in this jam, and it's a very enjoyable listen. I again don't rank it super high. I think it pretty easily loses this matchup against the this behemoth drip, but don't skip it. Listen to all the jams, as we say.
Well, this is one that it's worth a listen. At least the Pancakes, that is. Rick, super thick envelope filter in the beginning, which you don't hear a lot of Rick on the envelope filter throughout the year. And this one is pretty cool and has a very like Jerry-esque vibe to it. So that part sets it apart. And then the sauce that comes later, which, I think anytime he does that this year, we really love it. So this is a cool version. And then I think also like Peter and Trevor kind of team up to be the bass in this particular one, which is pretty neat towards the end. So definitely worth checking out. But this drip is really good. I think I've rated this drip lower than everybody else, and I'll tell you why. And that's really important. There are not 13 minutes, but 17 minutes of drip field before this becomes anything worth listening to, in my opinion. And that, this is what is it, 27 minutes in all?
Yeah.
So you get 10 minutes of jam on this thing. So when you look at this thing on the paper and you say, whoa, 27 minutes, holy smokes, that's like the biggest drip field ever. It's not. That's not what this thing is.
It is.
Well, no. It's extended type 1 in the framework of drip field, which I think becomes monotonous after a while. And I think a lot of people, when they build their brackets, they go and skip ahead to the jam. And so you forget the part that you have to endure quite a bit of drip field. Now, is drip field a great song? Sure. It absolutely is a great song, but this is a jam of the year bracket. This isn't the song of the year bracket. Here we are at the 314, and I'm the first person saying this. So we're focused on the jams. This jam is spectacular, but shorter than you would think that it actually is. And the thing that you do get is really awesome. You get this emblematic build to the gigantic peak at the end, which is like pure 2024. Everything about this thing just exudes 2024. Before that, you get, again, kind of this pure 2024 thing of them opening up a whole bunch of space and doing, like a little reverse delay and little Eugene Bourne-esque, if you will. And I'm not hating on this because it is Eugene Bourne-esque, but there's a bunch of that in the beginning of this. And I got a Eugene Bourne take later on this, by the way. That is actually pretty positive. But so, yeah, this drip is good. I don't think it's a 3 seed, but everybody else does. And
the formula dictates.
You guys. The formula does dictate. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Next up.
Okay. And just to be clear, I do have the drip field beating Cap Rosewood in the next round.
Oh,
so
good. I'd be worried if you didn't.
Okay. That brings us to the penultimate matchup in the Mania region. We're flying through these. We have the Northlands Jive Lee 7 seed going up against the Fox Tumble. So I'll just say that this Fox Tumble was my 64. So just kind of snuck in under the wire. Public had this at 37, which kind of surprised me. And I'm not going to break down all these tumbles, so I'm leaving it that. And the Jive Lee I had at 30. Public had at 28. So I felt like a lot of our picks, we were pretty close there. And so the Jive Lee takes it here. 2 big Jive Lees in the bracket. I think we all know where the other one came from. And Jive Lee comes out of this one, I think, fairly easily.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was another one that was pretty easy. Tumbles had a great year. I enjoy listening to all of these tumbles. This isn't the one that I'm always going back to, though. Jive Lee had a couple great versions, as JG referenced here. And this is the second one that I enjoy listening to, but I do like going back to it because it is very unique as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is my favorite Lee of the year as well. Love this one a lot. Love just like the dark kind of clavy jam that they get into in the middle. It's an excellent jam. This tumble is an interesting one to me because as you said, this is it's weird that it made it up this high. You know, I didn't rank it. You had it at 64, and this is the jam that I didn't see a lot of chatter about, you know, throughout the year after the Fox on really any platform. You know, normally you can kind of gauge where things are going to end up. Like, you know, even some people, like there are a few stands for the lower seeded jams. I didn't really see chatter about this one at all. So having it get enough votes to get a 10 seed is really interesting. And there's another jam in the next matchup that also surprised me with making it onto the bracket with little to no fanfare. It's a good tumble, but doesn't stand out to me. As you said, like there are so many good tumbles in 2024. This one doesn't, you know, it's a very good jam. But
yeah, tumble fatigue is like a real thing, right? I think that there's a lot of tumbles. So before we started recording this, I said, I think I messed up. I think the only one who didn't rank this tumble.
I didn't rank it.
I believe you ranked at 64.
Oh, that
was me.
Also, John, you both ranked at 64.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, I think you did. And you were right to do that. I didn't rank it and you did. So this is me backing you
up.
Right. So this tumble is unusual in that it's a laid back tumble. It's 28 minutes. Big tumble. And the vibe in this thing is so good. I just listened to it today for the first time in a while. I hadn't listened to it since I dismissed it this summer when I was like, this is not going in my bracket. And I was wrong. I think it should have been in my bracket. It's quite good. I don't think it stands a chance against this Jive Lee. I was in attendance for this Jive Lee, so maybe you can say I suffer from attendance bias. But holy smokes, this Jive Lee is the best Jive Lee ever by a long shot.
Yeah,
by a long shot.
What the fuck?
And
not even the best of the year.
What the fuck?
Oh, you guys are so wrong. You guys are so wrong. Hey,
luckily,
listen,
I was at both of the best.
Ryan was at both, so
I
he's the
say,
tiebreaker. Yeah. I mean, this Jive Lee is a wall of sound. Every once in a while, Goose just does this thing where it sounds like one instrument and you're just getting blasted with sound. And that is the vibe that I got in this thing. Yeah. I didn't know what to do. I felt like while I was there, should I run? Should I cover my ears? Like, it's so much. It's so overwhelming. I did neither of those things. I just stood there and took it, and it was incredible. It was really good. So yeah, Jive Lee moves on, but it's actually closer than it seems. So I think the 10 seed for this tumble is fair, even though I didn't rank it.
All right, there we go. Matchup number 8.
All right, here we go. We got the Big Mist, the Cap Mist coming in at the 2 seed, 5 overall, and it's going up against a Born that has no shot here. So interestingly, to me, the Born was 60 overall by the public and also 60 overall by me.
Wow!
So just right in sync with just about everybody out there. So that's great. We ranked all the really low jams close. So that's cool.
Nice job.
I actually had the Mist a little bit lower. I had it at 19 overall. So I didn't quite see this as a 2 seed like most seem to. That being said, Goat Mist takes this easily, and yeah, Cap just showing up. Not only just in this region, but other regions as well. I mean, Cap with just a really, really strong showing, and so I'm glad we're getting kind of so many of those here together. I love to see it. So many great jams came from the Cap this year.
Yeah.
Kev?
I agree 100%. The jams that came out of the Cap, some would say culminated in what happened in Colorado a couple months later. But I'm easily in the Mist camp here.
Yeah, same. This Born is another one that didn't get a lot of chatter. I had this on my list for a little bit near the bottom, and it fell off sometime in November, I think. But I love what Peter's doing on Clav during this jam. I would urge you, go listen to it because it made the bracket. It's worth a listen. But this Mist is the Cap Mist. I don't think there's anything we need to say about it that hasn't already been said. Yeah.
Oh, I've got things to say about it.
Oh, good.
Well, first, I'm going to start off with you fake Born lovers, you fake Eugene Born lovers.
Christ.
Don't
this is not
love
anything
this.
like the Eugene Born.
You don't love this 921 Born. It is Eugene Born light.
No.
Not as good.
Not
It
the
is
time.
similar. You guys are bad at Borns.
Neil's shuffling
if
papers
you love
over here.
Eugene, but I'm gonna keep doing the shuffling the papers thing, like all day, like just gonna.
It's a Born festival.
So, it's like Eugene Born light. It's got all of those airy elements that everybody seems to love about the Eugene Born, but they don't. I don't like this one. It doesn't make sense to me. I ranked this one. I had it at 51. I've had it at 60. Neither of you guys ranked it. But you guys were like, "Oh, Eugene Born is like a top 15 jam of the year." You guys, just terrible.
Let it go, man. Let it go.
It's shameful. Oh no, I won't let it go. I won't. But so moving on to the Mist, I think I'm the biggest champion of this Mist around. I absolutely love this.
Sorry, like around is in this podcast or around in general? Because the Vickers exists.
Yeah, Vickers does exist, but I mean, they pack so much joy into this jam. I'm going to reuse this analogy because I love it. It is like watching the entirety of season 1 of Ted Lasso in a song. It's just like everything. You just like feel so much positivity, and it's just like everything's turning around. Like, life is so good. It's like everything about it. It's insane. So if like you're ever having a terrible day, put this Mist on. Not saying this is the jam of the year, but put this Mist on. I assure you, your life will improve, if only for a few minutes.
And for
Or the
context-
Rosewood. I mean, you can do it with
Yeah.
the Rosewood.
Right. Well, again, some people different strokes, So I had this at 8. Kev had it at 4. Neil had it at 6, and Jive had it at 19. I haven't looked. That might be the lowest anybody who submitted ranked this Mist. But
Oh, Kev had it ranked
So-
higher than me. Go Kev.
So
Noted
That's-
Mist 4.
that is our
So
main
that's,
region.
so that's a wrap on the Manu region. And so I just really quickly just want to go around and give our thoughts on who we have coming out of this region. I already teased it. It's the Capcakes for me, actually. So again, I had this at number 3 overall. So I'm going with my rankings to determine, my picks. And I had the Rockdale at 6 overall. So for me, the Cap Pancakes takes it, and I think is a deserving Final Four jam.
Yeah, I had this Rockdale, which I'm going to pick as well as moving through this particular region here, ranked at 3, and I think it's going to have no problem moving through here.
Yeah, I'm going chalk here. I've got the 1 and 2 seeds in the Elite 8 as well, and Rockdale easily makes my Final Four.
I mean, this Rockdale has to sail through this thing. And actually, I really love the idea of this Rockdale. If you're going chalk all the way through, being matched up against this mist because I love these two jams. I do love the cab cakes too. Don't get me wrong. These are all excellent jams. This bracket, this region rather, incredibly strong.
Yeah.
1 through 3 at least. 1 through 4 rather. And yeah, man, it has to be Rockdale that goes through here. It'll be a travesty if it doesn't. It is such an incredible jam. It needs to be celebrated. I mean, it's the best thing they've ever done. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to keep saying it. Actually, every region we do, I'm just going to end with, this is the one that I think it's going to make it through, but it's not as good as the Rockdale because it's just not.
I love it. I love it. Well, without further ado, it's time to move on to our second region. Kevin, why don't you take us over to the bottom left for Apollo?
Showtime at the Apollo. Counting down from 16 to 1. We have the November 9th Draconian Meter Maid from Cincy. At 15, we have the Cincy Pancakes from November 8th. At 14, we have the St. Louis Redbird from 6-5. For 13, we have a Cap Tumble from April 10th. And for number 12, we have Fiddler's Wisteria. Everybody knows what day that is. I'm just kidding. It's 6-7, June 7th. Number 11, we have, what do we have here? Eye to Eye from Austin. Austin, not Boston. Austin. Number 10, we have the Born from Miami. That was October 29th. Number 9, coming in at September 22nd, was the Arrow from Troutdale. Trout. Number 8 is the October 24th Nashville Mist. And at number 7, we have the Salt Shed Dripfield from September 13th. At number 6, what do we have here? We have Echo Over Rose from Charlotte, 623. I listened to that today. It was pretty fantastic. Number 5, we have the November 8th Thatch, again from Cincy. Number 4, we have Everything Must Go, Soulshine, Soul Bros, Chillicothe. May 26th. Number 3, Spack Drive, another good one, September 7th. And at number 2, we have the Wisteria Lane for Portland. That was June 26th. And the number 1 seed for the Apollo region, very anticipated, the 6-8, June 8th Madavon from Denver, Greenwood Village, Englewood, Colorado.
Hometown boy for Kev. Just for context, that Fiddler's Madavon is the number 3 overall seed. So it is a 1 seed. It is ranked number 3 overall by the people. This is what our region looks like over at the Apollo. A lot more heavy hitters here. Kev, you got initial thoughts?
I do. I'm a very big believer that, and I know there's going to be a lot of disagreement here, and there's probably disagreement at large in the community that this part of the bracket probably holds the Jotty.
I agree.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Meter Maid.
All right. First one, speaking of the jam of the year, upset alert.
So we have our first matchup here with our number 1 seed. Again, the June 8th Madavon from Fiddlers here in Colorado up against the Cincy Draconian Meter Maid. I'll pass this off to my pod brethren here. This is an easy 6-8 Madavon selection for me. I
love this Meter Maid. Yes, this Madavon is my jam of the year. I don't need to say a lot about it, but I really, really like this Meter Maid from Cincy. This one, the last 3 Meter Maids of 2024, St. Augustine, Cincy, and Austin, both are all worth your time to listen to and gives me a lot of hope for where the song is going to go in 2025. But I really like the way this jam unfolds, that kind of very clav-driven first half and then spacier groove in the second half. But I think it shows where the improv was going in November. I think if you listen to the Fiddler's Madavon and this back-to-back, you'll hear how much more sophisticated the improv is in November versus June. But that doesn't mean this jam is anywhere close to the jam of the year quality that is this Fiddler's Madhavan. And yes, this was the jam where I accidentally punched Jive Goose in the face out of excitement.
He seems to have
True.
recovered.
True story.
His glasses were okay.
Yeah.
Neil?
This meter maid is really, really good. I'm glad a meter maid made it into the bracket.
Yes. Shout out to Swimmer.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Swimmer. Shout out to Cotter singing a song. He gets a song in the bracket, and it's not because we got to sneak one Cotter song in here. It's because it deserved to be in there. This is really good. I mean, there was a lot of great stuff happening in Cincinnati. You think about moments of the year where things were just clicking. Certainly, you think of Greenwood Village, Colorado, because things were definitely clicking at those shows.
That's what comes to my mind.
What comes to mind. And then one of the other times that I think of is Cincinnati, where everything was working, and this meter maid is an example of that. I mean, it is an enthusiastic funk jam throughout. There are a lot of elements to it that I think really stand out. So this is worth the listen. It gets demolished by this Madhavan, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to this meter maid. You should. This Madhavan I love a lot. And we could do about 15, 20 minutes where we talk about each distinct section of this Madhavan and what I think is great about it. But what I think I can say, zooming out on this Madhavan, that to me makes it stand out, is certainly a 1 seed. I had it ranked number 2 overall. I think you 3 had it ranked number 1 overall. I don't disagree with choosing this as your number 1. But when people talk about Goose being an indie groove band, what does it mean? They have to sound a little bit like an indie rock band, right? And they're a jam band, so their jamming should sound a little bit like indie rock, right?
Don't put them in a box, man.
They put themselves in this box. It's on their website. And this is that sound. This is what they should all sound like. If you are an indie groove band, all of your jams should sound like this first jam in this Madhavan. It is indie groove jamming. This is it. It's so good. It's incredible. This is such good stuff.
There we go. B?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Neil kind of spoiled and stole my thunder. But yes, Madhavan is my number 1 overall. I wanted to share that with everyone because I wore the shirt and everything, and I was really excited to share that.
Sorry, dude. Oh, my bad.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yes.
You blew it all on Cap Rosewood, man.
Yes. So yeah, and you make an interesting point though, Neil. A lot of strong jams coming out of Cincy, and yeah, I think you've got to look at Cap, Denver, Atlanta, and Cincy, kind of not necessarily in that order, but kind of in that order, as the really strong runs, and it reads out in the bracket that way. So the proof is in the pudding there. But yeah, this is a no-brainer. I've got Madhavan going all the way. So yeah, love it.
There we go. All right.
Round 2. Let's go. So next matchup here, we have the Nashville Miss 10/24, October 24th. Against the September 22nd Arrow. And let's see what I did here.
Going down to the trap day. Gonna lay it all down for you.
Yeah, I ended up picking the Mist here.
Okay.
Ooh.
Arrow, let me tell you, and this was a close one for me. Arrow's had a fantastic year. There are a couple other Arrows that I like better. And again, I'm going to repeat what I said on the other side of the bracket. I'm sort of, when we were talking about Cat Mist, I'm a bit of a Mist whore from back when I was listening to these guys way back in 2019. That's one of the songs that originally first hooked me. So I absolutely have
Creatures. Are we talking about Creatures? Or
I absolutely have some bias there, and I will own it. And that's why Mist is moving through for me here.
And it's a little dubsteppy, this jam.
I love dubstep.
Yeah.
Who does?
Kevin, and also sorry, Ryan, just Kevin mentioning the the arrows. Yeah, he doesn't like all arrows, doesn't like every arrow.
I don't.
But
I don't.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we can.
But that's just a tease.
There we go. All right. Well, this is an interesting matchup for me because I had them ranked way further apart than the seating indicates, and I think the majority of us did, besides Kev. I had the arrow ranked at 20 overall, and I had this mist at 45. And I have listened to this mist more than I have listened to this arrow because of one moment that happens around 24 minutes and 20 seconds in. That if we were talking about a moment of the year, this is a 1 seed because the drop. I'm talking about the drop. The drop is sick. The drop is amazing. I love the back half of this mist a lot. Once they get through the Saints jamming, really cool, unique groove for them. And then again, just the build into that disco peak is amazing. Would love if they went back into the ending, but that's fine. But this arrow is amazing. As Vicar said in the chat just now, this is a Cotter jam. Kind of similarly to the Fox arrow in that it slows down and gets dark, but that's kind of where the similarity ends. It's a very different approach to the jam, a lot less synth reliant from Peter than the Fox arrow is, but I'm a huge fan of this arrow. Arrow was amazing in 2024. Really happy to be able to say that, after we've been kind of negative on it for a long time. But yeah, this is arrow for me.
Both these jams are great, man. Hey, I'm on record about this mist. There is a sequence in this, and this sequence pops up throughout the year of just like, it's like the late 70s. You're at a keg party, you're having a time of your life, you're listening to Aerosmith, and it's just like pure joy. And I love this kind of classic rock jam that comes out of this mist. The Saints thing again is the emblematic jam of 2024. When we think about 2024 in the rear view, we're going to think about a few things. But one of the things we're going to think about is this kind of when the Saints go marching in major key jam that they find themselves to their way to in several different ways. But the other part of this mist, that's the part, the thing you remember is the Saints jam, but the thing that you should remember is the Aerosmith keg party, time of your life. You're 16 years old and you're drinking a keg beer for the first time or whatever. That thing is sick.
That's a good question from the chat. Neil, were you at
not
keg
old enough to have been to keg parties in the late 70s? We'd have to ask Jive about that. But still, this arrow, on the other hand, is also incredible. And the arrow does win here. I think I had it ranked much higher. I mean, there is a lot to love about this arrow. There's a lot to love about arrows in this particular year. The bass playing in this, dude, is straight out of Pink Floyd Animals. Like it is so ridiculously good. Like, go back and listen to this and try to not think of Pink Floyd after I've said this. Maybe you didn't hear it then, but listen to it again. And Trevor sounds sick. I don't know. This is really good. And there's a lot of just kind of like space and really Floyd-esque bass playing in this one. I love it.
You said Aerosmith. I thought you were going to say Max Creek.
Yeah, not the same, but same era for sure.
Close.
Yeah. So this is an 8-9 matchup. I didn't have it that close actually, and I kind of flip-flopped with the public. So the public had the mist at 31, the arrow at 35. I had the mist at 55 and the arrow at 24. So unlike most mists that Goose plays, this one is finished. Arrow's taking it down with the upset.
That's pretty big for Jive.
It's too bad we should have a live studio. I should have had a laugh track, but instead, that didn't work.
Close enough.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Anyway, that's all you got?
That it?
That's it.
Next matchup. So our next matchup, we have the November 8th Cincy Thatch as the 5 rank up against the 6-7 June 7th 12 ranked Wisteria from Colorado. No attendance bias from Colorado. I actually selected this Thatch to make it through. This was a relistable Thatch for me, better than the one that's on the other side of the bracket, in my opinion. I know you both Jive and Neil had some very solid things to say about that. I hope they have some solid things to say about this Thatch as well.
I absolutely love this Thatch. I think I said this on a podcast recently or online recently. I think this is the jam that I've listened to the most since it happened in November. I can't get enough of the layering coming from every single member, the collective interplay, and as we've said, just Rick hanging back for the first big chunk of the jam and letting everything come together before he hops in. It's amazing. I had this at 22, Kev at 23, Neil at 21, and Jive at 35. Once again, the outlier here. But this Thatch, this is my favorite Thatch of the year.
Load
by
him up
far.
every time.
I got to do it. But this Wisteria is an excellent jam. Just 2-guitar bliss. Great. I definitely underrated it and kind of have all year. I'm the outlier in this case. We've got Jive at 43, Kev at 41, Neil at 34, and me at 61. So definitely underranked this one. But Thatch wins this here. Kev, you should mute your mic.
I will
Neil,
not.
over to you.
I mean, you gotta
Shuffle
stack
the
paper
papers
on this one, especially this one. There's a lot of paper stacking that you got to deal with here. This Thatch, I am very fond of. This one is one of those jams that you just come back to, Ryan, like you said, and I keep coming back to this one because it's great. Again, what they did in Cincinnati, I think, was really, really good stuff. Some people have said that it is a step up in their jamming, a level up. I think that is true. Though some people are me, by the way. Spoiler alert. But some people disagree with that. And that's fine if you disagree. But I think this Thatch is great. And what makes it great, again, Ryan, you said it, Rick just waits and lets it unfold. And there are a couple things that happen when he does that. Trevor gets to do things in space that I think make him a better bass player. Sometimes when he's not playing the bass and he's just kind of offering accents of just bass notes, that sounds really, really good and really, trippy, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then Peter kind of establishes the bass. And then Peter and Cotter kind of build up this thing. And then when Rick finally steps into the thing, because Rick is going to hit a home run every time, he steps in. Not every time, but most of the time.
When he's teed up like this.
When he is teed up, and and thank you for that, because that's what I was looking for. He's absolutely teed up on this one, and when he steps in, it just all blows up, and deserving of the 5 seed here, really, really good. This Wisteria, by the way, we talk about bliss jams, and I've said time and time again that we should categorize bliss jams, because some are triumph, some are pure bliss. We were just talking about the Thatch from Salt Shed. That is just gorgeous, pure, delicate bliss. This is just we've won the war, we've won everything. We've won the lottery, and I mean it's all triumph and so good. And so this Wisteria is weirdly low. The Bliss Jam lovers should be all over this thing. This is sick for that kind of compartment, that bucket of jams, as it were. But yeah, I mean, cool matchup. But this Thatch just runs away with it because I just love it so much.
There we go. B.
Yeah, I mean, nothing that I really need to add about the Thatch. I've got the Thatch going through, but yeah, this Wisteria is, I think it's underrated, and I didn't have it too much higher, but as I was kind of listening back, yeah, I thought the same thing. It's just the bliss is so good, and I am surprised in that regard that it didn't get higher votes. I'm not quite sure why that is. I think there's an anti-Colorado kind of online movement, and so I think maybe that's what we're seeing here. That's the only thing I can.
Jive, I've heard this as well. I concur. I've heard this as well from a lot of different people.
Yeah. So there's a couple of Wisterias in this bracket that I think kind of fall in this same boat where, yeah, it's just a really nice jam. It's highly re-listenable. And I think sometimes I think that has become more and more of a stronger criteria for me as I rank, the jams on my list. But yeah, long story short, Thatch moves on.
There we go.
Next matchup.
Next up.
Oh man, All that you can imagine. Number 4, we have the May 26th, Chillicothe, Soul Bro, Soulshine, Everything Must Go, versus the Cap Tumble. Tumble's having a great
Man.
year.
Not that
Tumble.
tumble.
Whoa.
Pump the brakes, Kev.
Don't misinterpret me here. The number 13.
That's a 13 seed in another region, dude.
Yeah.
Hold on.
The number. I was just shocked to see another Tumble in the bracket, but as I was about to segue into, Tumbles had a great year. This number 13 Cap Tumble is not going to beat this Everything Must Go at number 4. I selected the AMG to move on.
Yeah, this Everything Must Go, pretty highly regarded by us here on the pod. B and I both had it at 11, Kev at 12, and Neil at 9. This is a phenomenal jam. And from a festival, I think we were talking about the other day. This is one of those jams that I think suffers from having been played at a festival early in the year. The show wasn't streamed, so doesn't have the same hype on it in the moment as a show that is streamed. Kind of an out of the way festival. Not a ton of people there. So I think, we're talking about, like, you play this Everything Must Go in Cincinnati or in Colorado. I think it gets its fair shake. But this jam is truly, truly phenomenal. One of my favorite uplifting jams of the year. And I mean, this Tumble has a really amazing and gorgeous segment in the middle that I've always described as it feels romantic. That's the vibe of that section in the middle there. But I think ultimately, as a whole, it fails to kind of meet the standards that you need in a high tier bracket jam. Neil was the only one that ended up with this Tumble on his list at the end of the year at 52. I did have it ranked pretty high for a while, but I think I lost interest in it a little bit as the year went on.
Tumble fatigue.
It's a thing. It's a real thing. Okay, so I guess now is the time where I talk about the buckets that I put things in, and I started with this, and so we've already talked about one of these jams. The Cap Mist is one of my favorite jams Goose has ever done in terms of just how joyful it is. This Everything Must Go, I put in that same bucket. It is so good. The emotion that it evokes when you listen to it, it's more than just a danceable jam. It makes you just feel great when you listen to it. So there's a third jam that I put in this bucket, and I see these all on equal footing. And this is controversial, but it's the Philly Tumble. And we haven't talked about that one yet. We may or may not eventually talk about that. That might be a 13 seed in another region. I don't know.
It might not.
We're going to have to check in tomorrow.
No
We're going to
jam
have
of
to
the year
check in
for you,
tomorrow
pal.
about this. Maybe it's number 65. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We won't know until tomorrow.
Formula
But
dictates.
my point is, I see these three on equal footing. They're all incredible jams that just make you feel great. And this one is another example. I do think this doesn't get the credit it deserves. I don't know why people don't love this jam. People should be shouting from the mountaintops about how good this jam is. And they're not. And I don't get it. Listen to it if you want to feel happy. I assure you will feel happy. This Tumble. So I did rank it. And I will tell you why. I think it's set apart from other Tumbles because it has three distinct sections that are really, really, really good. It has that really nice blissful section in it. And then it has a section in the middle that the only words I can use to describe it are like calypso lounge music. It makes no sense what the hell that thing is. It is weird music, but it lands with me, at least. Clearly not with most, but with me, I really loved it. And then the disco funk that actually leads out of this thing is incredible. It's really, really good stuff. So I am a sucker for multi-part jams, as I've said time and time again on this pod. And if you have a 3-section jam that has 3 distinct parts that are great, you get on my playlist. So that's why this Tumble landed there.
Fair enough. B?
So I feel like I'm hearing a lot of this EMG is underrated kind of commentary, and all the reasons why, is it a festival or in the year and all these things. The four of us had it at 11, 11, 12, and 9, and the public had it at 14. So I'm not quite sure. It doesn't seem that underrated to me, I guess. And so I just
Properly seated.
I think that's pretty close to where we all have it. So, yeah, I love it. I'm one of the 11s, and so another highly re-listenable jam, a jam that, of course, being earlier in the year plays into this. But yeah, I mean, I've listened to this one a lot, so happy to see this one go through. And just for the record, I did not have Cap Tumble on my playlist.
There we are. Number 5.
Lest there be accusations. Moving on to the next round, we have the June 23rd Charlotte Echo of a Rose versus the number 11 1231 Austin, not Boston, Austin, eye to eye. There's probably going to be some disagreement. I like just straight out. I think like with the nostalgia, there's going to be a groundswell of voting for the eye to eye. I just think that's going to happen. But for me, again, like I went back and listened to a lot of these today. Echo was one of the ones that made it across my ear holes this afternoon, and it's very easy for me to select that Echo to go on versus the eye to eye here.
Yeah, for me, it's interesting to look at this. So this Echo, we had ranked pretty spread out ranking here. Jive at 46, myself at 40, Kev at 33, and Neil at 27.
Just behind the Cap Rosewood.
And whereas eye to eye, Jive and Neil did not rank. I had it 52 and Kev had it 54. I think, as you said, Kev, I think there's going to be a lot of voting for eye to eye based on the excitement of the bust out. People love the song. People love that it went for 20 minutes. So I'm going to say this is an upset watch. Just because of that, because of how much people love eye to eye. This should not be an upset watch. For wherever you rank this Echo, this is an excellent use of 27 minutes. Neil, I think you were the one that said the other day, like, this is one of those jams where it happened less in 2024 than it had in the past, where it's like everybody's setting up underneath Rick for him to just go. And pretty much this whole time you get that motif where like Peter has a more present synth drone going and, Rick's just ripping over that. But yeah, love this jam in the moment. Love it in the bracket, and it wins this round for me.
Yeah. So this is going to be a talked about matchup for sure. There are a lot of people in the corner of eye to eye. There are not so many people in the corner of Echo of a Rose. I do think it is a much, much stronger jam. The reason why I have it ranked so high is because, again, the riff, man. I'm just going to keep saying it, and I'm sorry if I beat this thing to death. But you're talking about Echo? I'm talking about this Echo.
Okay.
The riff that Rick finds, it is the long-lost riff of Heart. The folks in Heart should have thought of this riff. They never did. And Rick just figured it out in Charlotte, the most skipped stop of the tour. Nobody went to this show. Or everybody went to the show. Yeah, it was pretty full, but a lot of people skipped it because they went from the Fox straight down to Portland. It was a long jump.
You go down from Atlanta to Portland, Maine.
Yeah, or up. Depends on how you think about it. Deep. In any case, really, really amazing riff in this thing. Again, Rick just grasps melody out of thin air. I've said it 1,000 times, and I keep saying it. He does it better this year than he ever has. This is yet another riff where it's just like, wait a second, I've heard this before. I'm certain I've heard this riff before. It's so sick. Nope, he just thought of it right there in the middle of that Echo of a Rose. So that's like pretty cool. This eye to eye, I think, yeah, folks are just excited about eye to eye. It's like a big bust out. Jam wise, I don't think there's much for me to get excited about in this thing. I don't know. Maybe you guys have thoughts about like elements of it that like really stood out. I mean, I think I wrote, oh yeah, right. The synth work in the beginning is actually really good. It's
and
super
Neil does not
psychedelic.
Usually like synth work.
Well, it depends.
You're very discerning.
I've got a lot of words to say about synth work, but this one is just ultra trippy psychedelic stuff and really cool. But this Echo runs with it like real far. But I in my opinion, but I actually see it playing out that this is going to be very, very close.
Yeah, and I think Kev has a visual aid for a point that you actually made about this jam, Neil. Kev, you were talking about Rick going in the realm of Ghostbusters a number of times. The second segment of
Ghostbusters riff, yeah,
Ghostbusters. Sure. Kev, do you have a visual aid for us?
I don't know which one you want me to use here.
That's up to you.
That one.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah. So I'll hold that up there again. So I want to make a comment on that real quick, if I could, because it's something going back to what Neil was mentioning earlier before we went live, in the sense that Rick is laying back and being patient and waiting for some of the stuff to develop. And we were just chatting that little Ghostbusters like couple chord riff is like his holding pattern before he figures out what he's going to go into next.
So thank you for the prop, Kev. B, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Echo's the better jam, and it's the more preferred style of jam for me. So I'll have it moving on. I don't think it's great though. I mean, I had Echo at 46. I didn't have Eye to Eye. Maybe I should have. If I would have gotten it in, it would have been in the upper 50s or 60s at best.
B, when's the last time you listened to that Echo?
Just probably yesterday.
Okay.
So, anywho, Echo edges it. I could see it. I could see the upset happening, like you guys have said. There's definitely some. Eye to Eye is going to be a sentimental pick for a lot of people. So I could see the upset. If it happens, I'm not going to be too crushed because I don't see much in this Echo, to be honest. So it's great jam, middle of the pack or further down for me.
Sick jam, bro.
Yeah.
Number 6.
And on to our next matchup. We have the number 3 seed, the September 7th SPAC Drive, versus the number 14 seed, the June 5th St. Louis Redbird. What did I do here? I picked Drive again, man. Yeah, this is a fairly easy matchup here. Neil, he loves to talk about Redbird, so he's going to talk about this one as well. But this is easy Drive pick for me.
This is a funny matchup for me because this SPAC Drive, has pretty much been seared into my memory since it happened. I've listened to it a ton of times. This Redbird, I remember being kind of high on early in the year. I think it was Neil who was giving me a lot of shit for being high on it early in the year. I went back to it for the first time in a while yesterday, and I was like, wow, this is actually a really strong jam. I don't think it's underseeded per se, but I think it just speaks to the quality of 2024. When you have a 14 seed, you're like, yeah, that's a fair ranking for this jam, but there's still a lot of interesting stuff happening. I think it lacks like that, that certain je ne sais quoi that makes it a high tier bracket jam. But this is an excellent listen, very enjoyable Redbird. Of course, this drive is absolutely phenomenal, ranked by the 4 of us. Jive Goose at 9, Kevin and I at 7, and Neil at 11. This is amazing. Just it's that similar motif to the ending section of the Hunger Salt from 2023, but better. And it just, you have that Ted Tapesy section in the middle before they get there. This drive is amazing. Not much else to add here.
Yeah, I was in attendance for this drive. So I do have a little bit of that attendance bias. And, oh, man, this thing is so good. You were standing next to me for this one, so I want to point that one out. And I think there was a lot of communication while this jam was happening where, this is like, oh, this is the good stuff. This is what we were waiting for on that run. And, as it was happening, it's really, really good stuff. But, it's got really, really awesome stuff. And again, Rick just finds a riff in this thing. And, that one riff that they hang on to is just so ridiculously good. I don't know how they find this stuff. And I wish I could hum a bar, or play a little clip every time I say this, because I really want you to hear the riff. And you would agree, if you heard it, it's just it. Yeah, that I don't think you got it there. But in any case, it's really, really, really good. And again, they're doing the dynamics thing in this jam where it's just it's almost like a sine wave where it's soft and then loud, soft, loud, soft, loud. And that stuff just really, rings well with me. And it's so good. This Redbird, also very, very, very good. There is a moment in this where it all kind of settles down to almost nothing. And it sounds a lot like Divided Sky. They don't tease the pause, but it's a very Divided Sky-esque. I imagine I've spoken about this before, but if if you've ever been to a show and you've heard Fish play Reba, there is a distinct moment that you feel the breeze where everybody stops dancing and it's just a cool breeze just goes over the crowd. It's a phenomenon. I don't know what it is exactly, but I imagine if you were in St. Louis for the show in this Redbird, when it all comes down to that moment, you felt the breeze. That is a Reba breeze moment. So
You at least
very
smelled
good.
it.
Very good. Very good 14 seed. I do like all the Redbirds. I'm learning that as I talk about all the Redbirds from this year. So really good stuff. But
There you go. B?
Yeah, I mean, drive for me. The only other thing I'll add about this drive in the context of the bracket is that this was one that I was pleasantly surprised that it came in as high as it did. I know we all had talked about it enough, so I knew where we had it ranked. Yeah, but I wasn't quite so sure it was going to come in this high. So I was pleasantly surprised that it came in as a 3 seed and 11 overall. So just missed out on top 10 overall. So it's a really great jam, and I'm glad that everyone appreciates it.
Here we go. Next matchup. We have the Salt Shed, 7th ranked, September 13th Dripfield, matched up against the October 29th Miami Born, which was the 10 seed in this particular spot right here. What did I do? I don't know how people are going to feel about this. I made these picks earlier, and I ended up selecting the Born.
Upset watch from the Kev corner. Honestly, I agree.
The people's upset.
The people's upset. Thank you. There's a pretty big gap between the Dripfield and the Born here. I will say I had this Dripfield a lot higher initially, and the more I listen to it, the more it goes down. Like, Neil, you mentioned about the Greek Dripfield having a lot of Dripfield on the front end and then getting into the good stuff. This one has a lot of Dripfield on the front end, has around 6 or 7 minutes of good stuff, and then like 2 or 3 minutes of the segue into Satellite. And
that's right.
Now, that middle segment is spectacular. Again, that playing with dynamics, that like push and pull, tension and release that we were talking about earlier. But honestly, the more I listen to this, and obviously I currently have Dripfield on my first run through the bracket, but I could see myself going back to this matchup, listening again, and pushing Born through. I like this Born a lot. So just go over our rankings again, as I've been doing. Dripfield, we had Jive Goose at 14, myself at 24, Kev at 22, and Neil at 28. And this Born, if I can find it on the list here, 1029 Born, Jive Goose at 23, me at 34, Kev at 30, and Neil at 45. So this is kind of two distinct sections. You have that slow jam, synth, great, and then it picks up speed and gets into that kind of factory fiction-y jam. It's funny, we see different kinds of factory fiction jam pop up throughout the year. There are a few different ones, but I like this Born quite a bit, and so I could honestly see myself, this is a matchup that I think I have circled that's like, you have the Dripfield, but go back to it before you lock in your bracket next week. But I could see myself going Born here. Neil?
Okay, a couple things to say about this. So the few minutes at the end of the Dripfield that you were talking about that you said were pretty good was an understatement. Those few minutes are incredible, and in fact,
in the middle.
No, it's towards the end.
The middle third. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in any case, it doesn't matter where it is. There is a moment, a segment of about, I'd say 3 or 4 minutes of this jam that is my favorite Goose of the year. Really, truthfully. Again, they're what they did in Chicago at the Salt Shed is they did a lot of like messing around with dynamics, but Rick and Cotter are doing this soft, loud thing in this thing, and it's the most mature, like well thought out jamming I think they've ever done. And I absolutely love it, and I wish they kind of stayed with it. But this drip is all over the place. There's like a That's All jam that kind of starts this thing, and then it kind of finishes out with That's All.
Don't give me
the
all right.
That's all jam. If you don't get Genesis when you listen to that, then I
get
know
it.
what the heck is
Nobody just
going on with
actually
you.
plays anyway.
Well, in any case, and then the satellite intro that comes on the back half of this also like really, really cool. So I get your point about the middle third, I guess, if that's what you want to say. But in any case, there's a few minutes that are really
middle
good.
third, not
But,
the scale.
okay, fine, whatever. So the Bourne. These are my notes. This is all I have to say about the Bourne. I don't think it's as good as folks are projecting it to be. I had it ranked significantly lower than you all, but these are my notes. These are the ones I wrote when I listened to it for the first time, by the way. And I pasted it in here and I wanted to say nothing else. So it starts off feeling like Eugene Bourne, finishes off sounding like a panic attack.
No wonder you don't like it. It sounds like the Eugene Bourne.
Eugene Bourne and then panic attack. And then the ending sounds like supercompose. Those are my notes.
Noted Eugene Bourne hater Neil.
I think the panic attack thing is actually pretty good. Like if you listen to it, you're like, oh my God. Yeah.
I'm going to call you Neil Meal on the air. Meal is your last name. Neil Meal.
Yeah, there was a Eugene Bourne reference earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I hear Eugene Bourne is in this version. To your point, with the rankings, I have both of these a little bit higher than the public. I've got the Drip at 14 versus 27 from the public, and I have the Bourne at 23. So I liked Eugene Bourne, and that was a jam I ranked last year. So I think that checks out then.
A lot of people ranked that jam.
That's most people I think did actually.
You know who didn't?
But just quickly on the drip field. So yeah, look, some drip fields, maybe they go too long before you get what you want out of it, or when you get what you want, that doesn't go on long enough. So I think everybody listens to these things differently and has different criteria for how they make their rankings. And so I think probably a key difference is how we define quality over quantity. What might not be enough quantity for some might be overlooked by others because of the quality that they hear. So that
is the man tumble Fiddler's Madhavan that will be, regardless of what happens with the bracket, people will be arguing that till the end of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's at the heart of the subjective nature of these things. Is just a big part of it is quality over quantity, and I think for the strip field, the quality is there for me. I wish there were more of it, of course.
Yeah.
I wish there was more San Francisco Wisteria. You know what I mean?
Don't we all?
But I love what's there. And I love what's there a lot. And that's why I have it kind of ranked where I do. So yes, I've got Dripfield moving on here, even though I do rate this Bourne higher than most.
There we go. Speaking of quality over quantity.
Move on to the last one here.
Yeah.
Should we do this? Are we going to do this?
Yeah, our last matchup of the night.
Our last matchup of the night here. Yeah, I mean, the time has flown by.
Look at that efficiency, guys.
Oh my goodness.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, we are having fun. So we end the Apollo side of the bracket, the lower region being revealed here with the number 15 seed, the November 8th Cincy Pancakes, versus the number 2 seed, June 26th, Portland, Maine, Wisteria Lane. Wisteria in general, very underrepresented, I think. There's only 2 versions in the bracket this year? Three. When typically it's been like the jam vehicle to be watching in any given year. And I think this is one of the better versions that we hear this year, which is why I have it moving on against this Pancakes in this particular round.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Curious how much of an effect Peter's public support for this Pancakes had. This is our shortest jam of the bracket. Fun fact, and I believe it's 15 or 16 minutes. And I mean, Neil, I think I'll leave it to you to talk more about kind of where they've been moving with these 15, 16-minute jams towards the end of 2024. But I just want to say that this Pancakes is excellent, and I definitely underrated it insofar as it being a bracket jam. I loved it in the moment. I was like, yeah, it was a really good one, but too short. Not the case. I definitely should have had it towards the bottom of my list, especially my big 15 or so minute jam that didn't make the bracket was the Goose Miss Rockdale. But this Wisteria easily wins here. I had this at number 4. Jive had it at number 4. Kev at number 8 and Neil at number 10. I think this has been pretty consensus and absolutely incredible Wisteria, as you guys said, best one of the year. You get that spaceship sauce jam on the front half, and then you get, in my opinion, the best example of the Saints-ish jam that we heard all year on the back half. But yeah,
don't play Saints Challenge, Rick.
There we go. Don't play Saints Challenge.
Don't play Saints Challenge.
Thanks for that, Kev.
All right. A bunch of things to say about all of this stuff. So this Pancakes is one of the short jams that made the bracket. I think there are four out of the year that I really like. So there's the Walkie Need. There is the Goose Miss Rockdale. There is this Cincinnati Pancakes. There is one more Rockdale that is escaping me as I say
Cincy?
this. Cincy. Thank you. Also played in Cincy. So these jams are making me question like how I rank jams, because there are moments in these jams that are absolutely incredible. Jive, if you want to jump in, by all means, just go for it. And then I'm gonna keep going.
Would you have Salt Air in there as well?
For sure. I don't see that one as a shorter jam, despite it being 17 minutes. That's funny.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really good point. And I do see Zaltair actually in this conversation. I'm glad you said that. I never thought about it that way, and I think you're right. But this is making me question how I do this thing. So folks have been following along for a really long time, know that there is a bias for longer jams. We're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it, because it has historically taken Goose a while to get there. There are other bands that seem to get there. When I say there, you know what I'm talking about. If you like jam music, you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to have like a really good way of describing what there is, but you know what I'm talking about. But bands can get there fast. They have done it.
There's also,
I'm not going to name names.
Just real quick, but there's also bands that can get to that 30-minute mark or 40-minute mark, or let's play an hour or whatever it is, but it's not necessarily that engaging.
Exactly. So
and Goose
I find Goose has done that. Yeah. And there is a jam or so in this bracket
from
that
2024.
That actually do kind of fit that mold.
But anyway,
the point I'm trying to make, the real thing that I'm trying to underscore in all of this is that Goose has figured out the shorter jam in this year. I had Walking Need in my bracket. Nobody else did. Fine. The fact that this Pancakes made the bracket, I don't think anybody was hanging their hat on that Walking Need. No. You already dropped a big spoiler in this conversation anyway, so I don't feel bad about that. Yeah. So in any case, this Pancakes is so good just for a brief moment. And so I think folks realize that. I think Goose is getting better at finding themselves in these places really quickly.
Efficient.
And that makes me excited about 2025. That's why we all loved the San Francisco Wisteria. They got there so fast. And then here we're seeing it more and more often. Obviously not on the scale of that, but so that's how I feel about this Pancakes. It gets blown out of the water by this Wisteria, by the way, like absolutely crushed immediately. And this Wisteria is a funny jam because they take all of the good shit from 2024 and they put it in one jam.
I think
so. They're like,
June,
all right, so like, yeah, like we got the Saints jam. Like, all right, like let's throw that thing in there. Like, oh, hey, like you like crazy synth shit, like all right, we'll throw that in there. Oh, you like this like digital sauce? Oh, we'll throw that in there too. And it's like all jammed into this one jam, and it just works. Like you would think it would feel like, you know, kind of like an awkward patchwork quilt of things, but that's not what it is. It all just kind of melds together and sounds great. I did have it ranked lower than you all because I don't know, I don't think of it in that like top tier of jams of the year, but I still think it's pretty sick. Sick jam.
Wisteria.
All you got. Well,
wrap it up.
Final 4 picks from this region, Kev.
For me, I go back to well, yeah, you know, what's the mystery here? I go back to something that Jive was talking about earlier, and the things that we're looking for out of jams and what we tend to gravitate towards taste wise. And for me, it absolutely is this Madhavan that they played in Colorado this past year in June. And that for that reason is that evil wickedness that kind of wandered and went to different spaces. And that's what we're really here for. And that's what we're ranking for Jam of the Year, is this band going to different spaces and hanging out in different spaces and developing these different spaces that they don't normally do. And that is why I have this particular Madhavan on my final four.
Yep. I
Go,
will.
Kev.
There we go. I will not talk for a super long time, and I will just say Madhavan. It's my Jam of the Year. Makes my final four. Shuffle
We're saying about
those
these-
papers.
Yeah. If you're not voting Rockdale,
We're
to
talking
quote
about the
Ricky
final
Bobby,
four of
Ron
this,
Chat.
of this region.
Yeah, just
I'm
this
sorry.
region, bud. Yep.
I refuse to be constrained by your rules. If you're not voting Rockdale,
You said you were going to addend whatever your next final
That's
four
fair.
pick was with that,
Yeah,
so that's fair.
just
But
kidding.
we do have.
yeah,
to
no,
keep
I
going.
mean it's clear Madhavan runs with this one. I mean, Wisteria's not even close. Not even close to this Madhavan. So
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Madhavan,
Only
it's
one thing.
Madhavan all the way.
Well, everybody, that brings us to the close of tonight's part one of the Goose Jam of the Year bracket reveal. Of course, this is what we've got so far. We've got the bottom half. So tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, we will be back. We will be in the same place, and we will be covering the Chiron and Leo regions. We are very excited to reveal the other 32 jams that may or may not have made the bracket. So you see what's in front of you. You see half of it. Let us know on social media over the next day. Your speculation. What are the seeds that are remaining? What have we not seen so far? We're curious to see what everybody thinks. But of course, do not miss tomorrow night's episode. We will also be announcing the bracket challenge prizes tomorrow night. You will not want to miss that. It's going to be a great time. But I think I speak for all four of us when I say thank you, everybody, for making this first ever live bracket reveal episode so excellent. I've had a great time tonight, and just thank you all so much for joining us. Any final thoughts from you three?
Love the participation. Happy to be here. We started out doing this, just talking about music and Goose music with each other, and it's just awesome to continue to be able to do this. It's awesome.
what Kev said, man. I mean, this is so great. So this is year 5. I've loved everything about this bracket, and I just want to remind folks, say it once again, the bracket is not about what wins. It's about listening to the music, talking about the music. So please listen to the music and talk about it. That's all.
But also, it's about
doesn't
what
matter
wins.
what wins.
And it's also
Yeah.
about blaming Vickers.
Yeah, I think seeing so many people submit their picks, it makes me feel really good, and it should make everybody feel like you don't have to feel guilty about talking about Jam of the Year opinions and enjoying the bracket and having a good time with your friends. Like, that's what this is all about, is hopefully sharing these jams with your friends and sharing your opinions, and hopefully not trying to make your friends like feel really bad about making a pick they don't agree with. You know what I mean? You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Don't do it in public. Keep it in the group chat.
Yeah, don't do it on a
As God
podcast.
intended.
Yeah.
B, you're not going to get us to apologize for not liking your Cap Rosewood pick. Like that's not gonna,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen.
We can do it to each other. Just don't,
Yeah.
it's for the 4 of us. Like,
Anyway,
publicly shaming. Don't do it to your friend.
everybody enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Enjoy the start to your weekend, and we will see you tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern. Thank you for joining us tonight. Happy bracket season.
Some people are